Hey everybody, Brandon Chai with Slingshot Sports here, and today we're going to be talking about replacing parts on your Sentry Bar, and more specifically in this case we're going to be talking about replacing your Depower trim rope. Now this rope we use to control the angle of attack of our kites, and because it does use a cleating system and rub up here occasionally, it can become worn and you may need to replace this part. It's a really easy part to service on the bar and it requires just a few tools. So first things you're going to need is your replacement line. You can get that from Slingshot Sports. You're going to go ahead and need a pair of needle nose pliers, a small flathead screwdriver, or some type of poking device. There's some stuff you need to push through and it's really helpful to have something to push stuff through. And finally, you're going to need the toolkit that came with your Sentry Bar, because you need this glorious Allen key in here. It comes with that kit. So you can go ahead and pull that out. You can set the bungees aside just in case you need to use those for later. So the first thing we're going to do is unwind the lines off your bar. I've already done this on this bar and I've been able to get everything laid out nice and flat and clear. And we're gonna go ahead and move the part that we're gonna be working on into the center of our area so that we know what's going on. You see we have our center lines running off, our outside lines, everything's separated. And again, we're gonna be replacing this rope here, so we wanna get access to that part. So the first thing we wanna do is locate the rope. I'm gonna pull the rope in so that I can work on this end independently of having the bar all on top of my stuff. First thing I'm gonna do is locate the set screw in this ball right here that holds the Velcro stay on there, and I'm just gonna go ahead and take with my supplied Allen key, I'm just gonna back that set screw out, not all the way because you don't wanna lose it, and I'm just gonna slide that ball free so that it can move up the rope. Next thing I wanna do is get the knot that's down here in my trim rope out and exposed. This is where the needle nose pliers come in handy. Grab your line with your needle nose pliers, pull that thing up, and you can see I have a knot tied here that I need to untie. Now, because this takes a lot of load on your kite, you may find that this knot is extremely tight. So you may need to use your needle nose pliers, your flathead screwdriver. Slowly go ahead and work this knot loose, and you just want to untie that simple overhand knot. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your Velcro stay piece, you're going to go ahead and remove it from the rope, setting it aside because we will be using this to reinstall, as well as the ball with the set screw. I want to go ahead and pull that off as well and set that aside. My next step is I'm going to want to work this Depower rope through the cleat and out of the pulley block. So I'm just going to make sure it's uncleated from the cleat. I'm going to pull the line up through the clam cleat. I'm also going to pull it through the center line, and I'm going to go ahead and set my center lines kind of out of the way. Next thing I'm going to need to do is there's a Velcro closure kind of covering this whole unit. So I want to go ahead and open up this Velcro closure so that I can see what's going on in here. And as you can kind of see, this line is larks headed to my main power line inside of the cleat. And so what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to pull everything up out of the cleat so that I can undo this lark's head and re-lark's head a new line. And there is a good trick on how I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it involves this other ball down here. So you can see down here I have another set screw and ball. I'm going to go ahead and undo the set screw on this particular ball, not all the way. Again, I don't want to lose the set screw. What this ball does is it kind of compresses the PU tube around the main line. So what I'm going to do, and this takes a little bit of strength, is I'm going to grab the tube and the cleat and I'm going to pull down extremely hard to make space between the ball and the cleat, and I'm going to use that space to get the knot out. And then I'm going to grab my Allen key and I'm going to re-screw down my set screw. And what that'll do is that'll stop the tube from moving back up, and it will allow that space that I've created to remain, which allows me to move all of this rope up through this cleating system and get at this lark's head knot in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push all that space that I made up into the cleat. I'm going to work that through that first part. I'm going to push it down, work it through the second part. You can see it's attached to this little ring in here. So I'm going to need to, kind of using my needle nose plier again, grab this piece and kind of work all that slack that I made out of the cleating system, which can be a little tricky. Just got to take your time. Again, this is where maybe my flathead screwdriver will come in, because I can kind of auger it down underneath that line, lifting it to kind of move. Again, my goal here is to move the slack that I created further up into the system so that I can get up to this lark's head knot up here, which it looks like I have some space and I could probably get the lark's head undone, but because everything's really tight, I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can get a little bit more space on my line. So again, I'm gonna unscrew this set screw a little bit. Not very much, because I don't want to lose everything that I already worked for. I'm gonna grab that rope. I'm gonna compress it down even further than I did before, holding it in place. I'm gonna tighten my set screw. And as you can see, I've given myself probably another inch of space that I can use to work that piece. Again, like I said, I can use my screwdriver to kind of pry on the other side to move that space further through the cleat. It's looking like I'm getting about as much as I might get out of this system. You can see the tolerances are pretty tight here, so you're going to be working in some tight space, but I think that's enough room right there to get that lark's head undone. So now that I have this space, I'm just going to go ahead and work this lark's head loose, which again, a lot of tension here in this system. So grabbing your set of needle nose pliers here can be extremely helpful to pry these pieces of rope apart. And you're just gonna have to be patient and work at these, because again, there's a lot of tension, especially if you did a lot of big jumps. So as you can see, I've been able to get that lark's head loose, and I'm just gonna go ahead and slowly pull my flagging line through, removing my old worn out flagging line and setting it to the side. My next step is going to be to go ahead and grab my replacement flagging line supplied by Slingshot, which as you can see has some Dacron repair tape kind of put on down here. And I have a loop end on this side. So I want to take the loop end and kind of open it up. I'm going to go ahead and put it over the top of this loop. And I'm going to take the side with the feeder line and I'm going to push it through my lark's head, or through the loop, making a lark's head. As you can see, I'm just going to tighten that knot down, make sure everything looks nice and snug. And now you can see I have my new line installed. The best part about this, because I did all the hard work before, everything should be easy from here. So all I need to do to get this system all tensioned up again and make sure everything's okay is just open that set screw back up. Now that the set screw's opened up, I just kind of give a pull from my chicken loop end to make sure I relieve the tension from the tube. And as you can see, the system will kind of pre-tension itself back down, meaning the tension of the lines are all going to work themselves back down through the cleating mechanism, apply the tension, everything like kind of tightens out straight. I have no kinks in my tube. Everything looks nice and tight. I'm going to reapply my set screw in its new location, which is kind of everything untensioned and everything set the way it should. Again, make sure screw that thing down in so that it's actually biting into the line. So now I have my clam cleat assembly with my new line lark's headed. I'm going to go ahead and put my Neo cover back over the top, just simply by folding the neoprene and all that stuff back over the top. I'm going to take my line. I'm going to feed it through my pulley block / front line retention piece so that I make sure I have that connected to my center lines. And then once I go through that, I'm going to go down through the clam cleat, pushing the line through the clam cleat and pulling it tight again. Before you put that end piece on, just pull some stuff tight, make sure, hey, do I have it going through the pulley block? Is it going through the clam cleat? Okay, everything looks good. I'm gonna pull it nice and tight so that I can work on the line end down here. I'm gonna take the line end, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my retention ball with set screw that I took off previously. I'm gonna slide that over the top of my line. And then I'm gonna take my handle and I'm gonna go ahead and slide that over the top of the line as well. And that's where this piece of repair tape stitched on here is really helpful. As you can see, as I push it through, it's really easy to grab that piece and slide my handle also down onto my line. Now what I wanna do here is I wanna tie a simple overhand knot, and that's what's gonna hold everything in place in addition to the set screw. So simple overhand knot, just the loop, push the tail through the loop, just like that. And you wanna tighten this down pretty close to the end of the knot, meaning you want the knot to be really close to the end of the line, not on the tail because the tail can slip through. So you wanna make sure there's plenty of line biting coming out of the end of the knot, but you really want it located towards the end of this piece because that's gonna help ensure that your bar is closest to being in tune as the manufacturer intended. I'm just gonna kind of cinch that knot down, make sure I feel secure and happy about that knot. I'm gonna slide my handle back down, and you can see the knot just kind of goes inside of that retention handle. If you really want this to be clean, you could snip off this line right here. I'm not too picky about that, so I'm just gonna go ahead and tuck all that stuff in and kind of manage it by putting it under the knot. And that way, if I ever need to get into this piece again, I have this here and I can use it to my advantage. And then the final step is I'm just gonna go ahead and slide this retention ball back down over the top of the piece. I'm just gonna pull on everything, the ball and the handle, just to make sure everything is flush all the way down. And then I'm just gonna take my Allen key and I'm gonna re-screw down my set screw, which is gonna bite into both pieces and ensure that that handle can't move and lift up. Now I can go ahead and uncleat my line, pulling it all the way back up so that I can inspect and make sure everything looks straight and flush. You can see my flagging line is not going around or through any of these pieces. Everything is clean and good to go. So this is my bar. I've serviced this line and my Sentry Bar is complete and ready to go back on the water.